And tonight on The Wrap, the New York Times reporting Hillary Clinton might be involved in a huge scandal involving a certain foundation. We have the latest. A U.S. drone strike in Pakistan accidentally kills 2 hostages, one of which was American. How could this happen? And Senator Marco Rubio makes a major jump in the latest polls. Can he sustain the momentum? We'll talk about all of that. Plus, yay and nay and potluck. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. Welcome to the show. I'm Joe Concha, and joining me as usual, SiriusXM host, Forbes.com columnist, and a man whose shirts never wrinkle.
Oh, but they do, and I iron them myself.
Oh, well, maybe that's why. My co-host, Rick Unger. To his right, Philadelphia power attorney and America's favorite pundit, Heather Hansen is here again. And finally, TV superstar and editor of JaneUnchained.com, Jane Velez Mitchell is back. Okay, let's go right to the Daily Download. Well, the impossibly conservative New York Times dropping a bomb on the Hillary Clinton campaign today with reports stating the former Secretary of State was involved in a deal that made the Russian Atomic Agency one of the largest producers of uranium after acquiring Canadian company Uranium One. Meanwhile, perhaps a coincidence, Uranium One donated close to $2.5 million to the Clinton Foundation. And just after the deal was announced, lo and behold, President Bill Clinton booked a $500,000 speaking engagement at a Russian bank that has close ties to the Russian Atomic Agency. Coincidence, Rick? How damaging is this news?
You know, from a political perspective, it's got to have some fallout. It's interesting, though. I mean, as I am wont to do, I dug into the story. If you're looking to make the case for Mrs. Clinton, then I got to tell you, and we did this the other day with 2 of the other things that we've learned about this book. On this one, it pays to know that the Secretary of State is on a committee. It's called the Committee on Foreign Investments. And it includes 6 other powerful heads. I mean, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Energy, on and on and on. So you've got to ask the question, she has 1 vote. But you're not exactly dealing with people who aren't powerful people themselves. And if they didn't want this investment to happen, I don't care how much somebody paid, it wasn't going to happen. So you keep seeing this repetitive pattern here, I got to say, where Hillary just didn't have the power. She didn't make XL Pipeline happen if she got paid for that. It still hasn't happened. The Columbia deal we know happened for other reasons. You do have to wonder, but you know what? People who want to believe she was taken, they're going to believe it.
I think what is striking about this particular report, that it does come from the New York Times. I was joking. Yeah. They're not impossibly conservative. They might be a little bit
One more thing I apologize, I'm going to throw in. There is one thing we know she did wrong. She did agree when she started the job that she would report any foreign contributions to the foundation. She did not. So that we don't have to argue. She was wrong on that.
But Rick, when you were a judge,
yes,
if there was any person in front of you that you knew, would you recuse yourself?
Yes.
At least offer to, right?
Yes.
Because you didn't want there to be an appearance of impropriety, right?
Yes.
It does an injustice to the system. It makes people trust the system less. And the same is true here. You know, ethics experts have recommended that she not accept foreign donations, and she just keeps doing it.
Look, you've got 2 people operating on the world stage for a long period of time, for decades. That's going to mean Clinton is going to involve controversy. Those 2 words are always going to come together. And I really feel that this is more, if it's anybody's fault, it's Bill Clinton's fault, because he left the presidency. He wanted a post-presidential legacy. He wanted to use his powers to raise money and his contacts with foreign leaders to raise money for this Clinton Foundation that was going to go out and do all this good work. But maybe he wasn't thinking, hey, my wife might run for president one day. So I really feel it's Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I don't think I'm buying that. They've been thinking this for 20 years.
Maybe he didn't care enough about his wife's presidential
And by the way,
ambitions.
where did I don't want to go all anti-Hillary, but where did she go to work when she left the Secretary of State's office? The Clinton Foundation.
I mean, there's so much there.
Well, what are they saying about this over on the Place for Politics? They call it MSNBC. Well, on Morning Joe, not my show, it seemed the only one defending Hillary was former Governor Howard Dean.
But I will say that there is an epidemic of really sloppy reporting that goes from the top to the bottom about people who put stuff in before they're ready to get all the facts. And I'd like to see what all the facts are here, because so far we haven't really seen.
Why don't you read the story before
I'm happy
accusing
to
the New York Times of being sloppy?
Because in general, the New York Times has been sloppy, particularly their political writers.
Yeah, you don't want to go that route if you're Howard Dean. Anyway, attacking the Times, maybe a little bit desperate. The Clinton campaign went on the offensive to attack the credibility of Peter Schweitzer. He's the author of Clinton Cash, by issuing a talking points memo to all of its surrogates. The memo read in part, and we quote, "The bottom line remains that the book fails to produce a shred of evidence supporting the theory that Hillary Clinton ever took action as Secretary of State for the purposes of supporting the interest of donors to the Clinton Foundation. And Republicans, their allies, and people desperately trying to tear down Hillary Clinton will continue to rely on this book's false attacks and conspiracy theories. But bit by bit, the truth will come to light. This isn't the first baseless smear against Hillary Clinton, and it certainly won't be the last." Okay, Heather, first it's the New York Times crappy reporting. Now it's the right-wing conspiracy. It's back, and it's with a vengeance.
When they say bit by bit the truth will come to light, that would be true perhaps if we had emails to look at. I mean, you can't say things like that when you hide the truth. It's just beyond my comprehension that they think they're going to get away with
Well,
it.
but you know what? There would be emails to look at relevant to this at the Clinton Foundation.
We talked about this
Right.
the other night, but you know what, Rick?
If
If
you
we
can
see
get to
more
them.
articles like this, you might start to
might.
have an argument that you're going to get to those.
And
They
by-
are
There should be an
chipping away,
audit.
and I think what's sad about this is that when the debates come and she's trying to use her foreign policy credentials to burnish her image, this is what the Republican opponents are going to bring up. The only thing is that it's a really convoluted story, and I don't know that they can tell it in the 30-second soundbite world that we live in. I mean, it's really murky, and I don't know that it's got the sort of gravitas and the emotional weight. It's not like a sex scandal. And so I don't
there's
know
a
how much
way.
this is going to impact her long term.
There's
I
a
do
way
have
to
to
say
say,
it.
Howard Dean really did a very bad job this morning. I was watching as it was happening. I'm going, dude, you haven't even read the article. And it happens, it was written by one of the New York Times best reporters.
Yeah, but it was
she's
very,
really
very
good.
convoluted.
It was
Right.
convoluted, but what he was arguing wasn't fair.
But the headline is there that says that after a large donation, this deal was made, and that's what the Republican candidates are going to say. And to get
they
into
are.
all the minutia of it, I don't know that many people will do it.
I think the difference here is that if I'm a Republican candidate, I could say, the New York Times says. And the minute I say that, it's no longer a partisan thing.
It's a great ad.
Right, yes,
It's
it
a
is.
great
no
ad.
doubt about
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You have to separate what might have really happened here from what they're going to be able to say might have happened here. It's a problem.
Well, and the other
It's-
great thing is Schweitzer, the author, is also writing a book about Jeb Bush.
Yes, he is.
Really?
That's going to be
Yeah,
really
let's
interesting.
find out what happens
That's
with
right.
that.
It's
That
gonna
would
because
be interesting indeed. Anyway,
Political
coming up
deals.
next, a U.S. drone strike in Pakistan accidentally kills 2 hostages, one of which was an American. How could this happen? This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax.